The future is here already. It's just not evenly distributed. Yet. Today's world teems with innovation. The nexus of hardware, software, and human ingenuity promises a revolution in possibilities. What does tomorrow look like? Witness Future Proof.
Yours truly, Eric Kavanagh, is here. I'm very excited for the topic today. Open for Business Agility, Solving Technical Debt, the briefing room with Openprise and the Bloor Group. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So I have two co-speakers today. There's yours truly. On one side, Ed King, founder of Openprise, and Allen Pogorzelski, who has been on our radio show recently. We had a lot of fun talking about digital transformation. And after that show and before this webinar, something happened. Something big happened. So you may have seen this. Who led your digital transformation? The CEO, the CTO, or C, COVID-19? That's right. For most people, I think the answer is C. COVID-19 led their digital transformation. And you can look at some Google Trends here to see what happened. Yeah, that's called COVID right there, that huge spike that you see on the right-hand side. Kind of a big deal. All of a sudden, everyone started working from home. As a buddy of mine mentioned, a lot of people figured out that the jobs that folks said could never be done from home, well, guess what? They could be done from home. So companies, I think they were already on the ball with allowing some workers to work from home, were doing really well. One of the tactics I suggested years ago for companies would be to have sort of a rotating schedule and to have everyone in the office a different day, like maybe Tuesday and Wednesday is sales and marketing, Thursday and Friday is sales and operations, something like that. And those companies are doing great because they already had practice. So legacy systems, this is one of the funniest things I've heard in my industry. What is the definition of a legacy system? Answer: any system that's in production, right? Well, these days, a lot of those systems are online, software as a service. I'm so old, I remember ASPs, application service providers. Wow, remember those? Yeah, very exciting stuff. I had a back in the day, those ASPs, they weren't working so well, but that's what we used to call them. Those were the early days. That was what you might call Cloud 1.0, right? Well, we've come a long way since then for sure. This is the so-called MarTech 7,000. Yes, the business world got a whole lot more complex in the last few years. 7,000 software as a service apps for automating sales and marketing. This is a tremendous number. Now, granted, at no organization you go to are you going to find all 7,000 of these apps, but some of the larger companies you're going to find are using 100, 200, 300, sometimes 400 or more different software as a service applications as part of their enterprise. Well, what does that mean? It means you have a whole lot of unreconciled business processes, data, customer experiences. You have all kinds of things happening, and they may be doing very well. There may be very efficient processes in certain domains. That's the good stuff. That's what you want to find. But then if you think about where the world is going, this sort of Web 3.0, if you want to call it that, where we have something like Kubernetes, which I call the operating system for the cloud, and microservices, as they're called, containers, containerization of processes. Basically, a container is like a little, or a microservice, a little system process in a box that gets launched as needed. They're very ephemeral. They don't stick around. They get launched, they do their thing, and they go away. Well, it has to be connected to persistent storage, of course, but the point is that's the future, and where we want to get is to the future. So when I started thinking about this webinar a few weeks ago, before COVID struck, quite frankly, I was thinking all about solving technical debt and really optimizing business processes. And the thing about all these different software applications you see here is they all have different business models. They have different APIs, many of them. They have different functionality. The kernel is different for the software, and those in the software development world know the kernel is really important because it kind of maps out where you're going and what you're going to do. It's the initial vision of what this software is going to achieve. But what we need to do today, especially because of COVID-19 is the ultimate force function. It forced so much change on businesses, and I guarantee you there are countless examples of executives who, after they had to work from home, realized I don't have access to this system, I don't have access to that system. Oh my goodness, this requires 3 different applications. I never noticed that when I was in the office because it was all there. Well, that's the nice thing about a force function, is it changes everything, and very quickly so. And that's good because in the world of optimization, you want to have contrast. You want to be able to see what this is versus what that is. And we have a very clear picture right now of the contrast of the way things were done and the way things are being done now, which in many cases is a very Band-Aid oriented type of process. But this is an excellent opportunity to rethink your business processes and to optimize for this Cloud 3.0. Now, I'll also point out many of these systems that you see right here are going to do more value. They're going to generate more value for your business if they're connected to core systems in the company. So ERP systems, enterprise resource planning, CRM systems, for example, any sort of production system that is either delivering product or delivering message to the prospect or the customer, et cetera. If you want to get the best value, you want these systems to be connected. That's usually by API these days, which is very good news. But again, what you're going to be doing is working through all the different steps in the process of what your business is currently doing and finding ways to streamline that, finding ways to optimize that. This is a fantastic opportunity to do just that. So this is just looking in on email marketing, content marketing, optimization, personalization. Look at all the email marketing applications. Again, they're all different. I'll throw out a quick piece of advice too. The longer you're with a certain email client provider, the better in terms of deliverability. I think this is a theory I have. I used a couple different ones myself because, well, spam is a real deal these days, and GDPR is real, CCPA is real. These are coming down the pike. Those are other drivers to get you to get your game in gear, basically, and really optimize what you're doing. But figure out what you've got, which of these applications are in there, and then think through how you can optimize these workflows. And there are so many ways to do that, folks, and we're going to hear from my friends at Openprise about how that can get done. And what's the big catch here? In my opinion, the big value is morale. If you tackle this appropriately, morale is going to go up. When morale is high in your organization, you got a bunch of happy people working for you, you're going to have happy customers. I can promise you that. Happy enterprise professionals lead to happy customers, lead to happy board members, happy shareholders, et cetera. It goes on down the line, but you want to be happy where you're working. And again, with this whole work from home thing, this is a great opportunity to optimize and to see who works well together. Again, we have this sharp contrast of how things were working and how they're working now, and you can really benefit from that. So my prediction is that the next decade will be absolutely dominated by digital transformation. In fact, I think it's going to be front-loaded. I think you're going to see a lot of stuff in 2020 and 2021 moving very quickly to optimize this stuff, because the other things that are happening, of course, is if you can work from home, you can work from home anywhere. So I think the near-term benefit for US workers is good in North America, because we're going to be able to work from home. But the longer term is, well, if you're going to work from home, you better get the job done, because someone's going to figure out pretty quickly, oh, I can also work from home from any country around the world. And that will put some pressure on people in our companies right now. These are our companies. Here's a slide about yours truly. And let me hand it off to Allen of Openprise. I'm going to make him the presenter. And folks, don't be shy. We have Ed King on the line as well. He's the founder, as I said. He's got some really good details about the company and the technology. So don't be shy. Ask the hard questions. With that, Allen, take it away.
Eric, hey, thanks for the warm intro and all those great points. There's a couple of things that resonated with me. One of them, of course, is happy people do great things. Here at Openprise, all of us worked in a 3-2 schedule before the things happened recently. So we all worked from home 3 days a week and came in the office on Mondays and Thursdays. Worked out great. We had the right people and a motivated set of people who were excited to be there and to work on this grand vision that we have here. And as a result, we just 2 weeks ago won an Inc. magazine Best Places to Work award. So we were doing a lot of this stuff before most companies didn't have a choice. So it worked out really, really well for us. So today I'm going to share with you a little bit about who Openprise is and how we're tackling those two problems you talked about, technical debt and business agility. Let me start by sharing with you a little bit about what we were seeing in this company when we first started. The first one was, as you mentioned, there's more data out there than there's ever been. I know when I started my career in business intelligence, I was out in the field as a sales engineer, and I love to show people really great things with their own data and let them drill down on it and rotate and all of that. But the reality, though, is when I went back to the hotel room to build all these demos and show up the next day, 90% of my time was spent cleaning up the data, so it made enough sense that I could report on it. Here we are decades later, and not a whole lot has changed. The data that people are pulling into all kinds of systems isn't what it needs to be. Whether it's marketing automation solutions or tools like Tableau. at the end of the day, all of that data needs some help and some manual intervention or some automated intervention to be usable. Second big thing that we've been seeing, there are more apps out there than ever, and tech stacks have more applications than they ever did, and as a result of that, there's also more technical debt out there than there ever was. You know, a lot of decisions on technologies that made a lot of sense years ago or even months ago, many of us are inheriting and have to work through that technical debt. And I'll mention the last thing, which is decisions need to be made faster than they ever have been before. You know, there was a time when people had an appetite for ERP developments that take multiple years. But the reality, though, particularly on the sales and marketing side, is it's simply not the case anymore that businesses need to be more agile than they've ever been. I read a stat last week saying that in some industries, including tech, the mean tenure of a CMO is 14 months. Things need to move fast. People expect results faster, and you need the agility to change direction based on what the demands are of the business. You know, those 2-year-long, 3-year-long projects just don't make any sense anymore. And the last thing I'll say is the folks that know data and know automation are almost impossible to find right now. One of our customers indeed had the statistic, and they were saying that the number of jobs that employers were seeking over the last year that had the words data scientist in them is roughly twice what it was a year ago. And a year ago, it was almost impossible to find those people. So now it's even more so. And this is the world we live in. So given that, there's a lot of things that companies are doing to try and solve these problems that I was just sharing with you. One of them is we see companies buying even more point solutions for the smallest of things, for dedupe, just for cleansing, just for lead to account matching, just to do account scoring. And as you know, you end up with a really cluttered MarTech stack full of those applications that you just showed, and a whole lot of technical debt that comes along with it. We see a whole lot of companies buying a whole bunch of data from third parties, and it makes sense to look for third-party data to enrich a database for things like marketing and sales and finance and HR. But the reality is most companies aren't able to integrate that data really well, so they end up creating a bunch of shadow fields. So they've got 3 versions of a company size and 3 versions of a company HQ, and none of them is better or worse than the other one, which causes its own set of problems. We do see a lot of classic middleware out there, and while it certainly has its place, and most companies see the need for it in a variety of different places, there's a lot of shortcomings to what classic middleware can do. And while there are companies out there that love to write custom code, there's almost nobody out there that loves to maintain it. And we're talking a little bit about technical debt and about how difficult it can be to inherit all this stuff. Inheriting applications is difficult. Inheriting custom code can be 10 times more difficult. And I will mention the last thing that I see when we look at these data problems in this environment that we're facing is we see a lot of companies trying to hack their marketing automation and sales automation solutions to do things that they were never designed to do. And so we see all these problems coming together as people figure out how to manage this data as they move closer and closer and closer to an automated world. And so Openprise was founded with the idea that there needs to be a more methodical approach to the problems that we were facing. And I'll share with you a little bit about what we do and how it addresses some of the issues of technical debt and business agility. That first, what we do is we help companies prepare their data because at the end of the day, as I mentioned, you really can't use data just by dumping it into a spreadsheet, just by dumping it into a database. It needs to be cleaned up. It needs to be standardized. You want 50 states, not 500 of them. It needs to be able to be segmented. It needs to be unified. Otherwise, you have this one big mess. And stuff like deduplication, where you've got multiple versions of the same person in your database, causes huge problems for all kinds of business processes. The second thing that we do is we help you grow your business by adding new insights, things like scoring. Well, once you've cleaned up your data, you can look at digital behavior, what people are doing, where they're going, what assets they're looking at, where are they on your sites, and what are they doing there. All of that can be wrapped up into scoring at the individual person level and at the account level. We handle higher level processes that are really tough, like attribution, trying to figure out why a customer is a customer, what did they do, who in the company did these activities that led up to us being successful. And we've helped with things like building an ideal customer profile so companies know where to focus their energy. And this is particularly important now in this economy. I know at Openprise ourselves, we've had amazingly good results with focusing on our ideal customer profiles and allocating all of our marketing and sales time on them. And our pipeline has actually grown in the last 2 months because we've been so laser focused on those perfect customers. And of course, we do things that are more complex, like computation as well, though, too. This is something where ETL vendors come in really, really weakly. You know, there's a lot of computation that has to happen if you really want to make scoring work and if you want to make attribution work. And that's something you do with the Openprise platform. And you can even do things like bot click detection. If you're in marketing, this is the bane of your existence because you think emails are being opened, but the reality is bots in the background are doing it. So you have no idea who's interested. And the other thing that we do is we automate all these business processes to make your business more efficient so that you can spend more time on the most important stuff. Things like list loading from different campaigns and routing a lead to the right person. We also do things like data governance and privacy controls as well, though, too, because as you mentioned, in this world full of new regulations, it's really critical that you understand where someone is and what regulations they're subject to and which ones they're not. So let's talk about what this platform is. Well, first of all, it's a no-code platform, which means you're not writing Apex code behind the scenes the way a lot of our customers used to. First of all, we take the data from all of your core systems, whether they're Salesforce and Dynamics or marketing automation solutions, whatever your systems of record are, we pull that information and then we combine it with other information that you need to be more effective. Partner data like from D&B and Zoom and over a dozen different providers in our data marketplace, because you really do need to understand what the credit of those customers are. Where is the HQ? How big are they? Are they surging and demonstrating interest in your product? All that comes from third-party data. And we combine that with open data through our own open data catalog, which is a hand-curated set of information that is widely available, but we focused it just for folks that are in areas like marketing and sales. So we have things like lists of postal codes. We also have information in there about things like job levels and job functions, so you can segment better. And my personal favorite, we also have a list called the list of suspect names, also known as the Mickey Mouse list. That is a list of names that everyone knows is bogus. Then along with that, we orchestrate a bunch of different business processes to make better use of that data. I talked before about how we prepare the data through cleansing, enrichment, dedupe, and all those other processes, how we add new insights with things like scoring and routing, and how we can automate business processes like list loading. And then we push that data back. And we push it back into all the core systems that are important to you. And we can also push it into something that's really interesting that we just announced this last week, which is into an API as well. One of the most exciting things that we recently announced is that you can take any business process that you've automated in Openprise, and with a click of a button, you can create your own custom API that you can use anywhere in your infrastructure.
Can you go into that a bit more? You said with the click of a button, you can create an API that you can then use across the rest of your organization. Can you give an example of how that might work? Because to me, again, let's get back to this issue of redundancy, right? A lot of times developers and companies are doing things that have already been done, in part because they don't know it's already been done, in part because they can be done better, for example. But explain how that's actually done and what kind of optimization that enables.
So it's probably best just to explain with an example, right? So lead to account matching is a very common process that sales marketing folks are familiar with. So you want to be able to take any person data from your database, typically from your CRM, and it comes in as a lead. You want to figure out, hey, which account is this person tied to? Then you want to find out all the information about that account, right? Is this one of our strategic accounts? Who's the account rep? What sales territory is it in? What part is a part of a hierarchy of companies? So it maybe has parents and the accounts actually owned by, for example, the parent company's rep. How much business have we ever done with them, right? Do we actually have a current opportunity happening? How big is the opportunity? If they are a customer, and what kind of product are they using? What product have they used before? And are they happy with our product and all that stuff, right? So typically, marketing would kind of do this in a vacuum on their own, but increasingly people, for example, not only on the sales side are obviously very interested in this data, people even on the customer success side, right? Your customer success rep that's handling the account would certainly love to know, hey, actually we're doing an upsell there into the account, so maybe you need to give them some extra DLC, while we're trying to get a deal done. And your finance folks may be also interested in what's going on with this account because, hey, wait a minute, maybe they're not paying their bills on time. So traditionally, again, with all these disparate systems and efforts, essentially every one of these departments will have to essentially build their own code, essentially reinvent the wheel over and over again. So you have all these silos of databases, silos of technologies. So what we allow you to do is that, let's say marketing team has built out this lead to account matching capabilities for their own use. You literally can, in our system, just click a button that says enable API. Now, all of a sudden, we generate a custom API for you that you can now just hand it over to, for example, whoever is running your systems for your customer success platform, your help desk platform. So now they can call this API and dynamically display all this rich information about, all this information about the account inside the help desk system. So the customer success rep can see all that stuff in context of whatever they're working on, the case they're working on, without ever have to leave the application they're in, right? So this is an easy way to take any capability that your team has built, essentially turn it into an enterprise-wide service, right? And we allow you to do that as a level of ease that's just unprecedented.
That is really very interesting, right? And one of the keys with APIs is they have a very long deprecation cycle, right? In other words, once you create one, you want to keep it there for whoever is using it. Is that the case here too? You'll create these and then you can use it. And what's really interesting to me is that you're giving a window into another system that's facilitating business as it transacts, but you don't have to go and build all this point-to-point integration stuff. You're just opening a portal into that other world, right?
Right. And the end delivery of all of these has always been the data, right? So you got the data in one place, you build this mystical 360-degree view of a customer or whatever you want and say, hey, business people, here's all the data you want, go do whatever. So a couple of things we realize. One of the important things we realize is that data, in this new world, data is not the end game. You got to start thinking about how do your end users interact with that data? What process are they trying to enable? So as the owner of the data, like you're in sales, marketing operations, you actually want to start think about how do you want to more effectively control or enable people's interaction and the consumption of that data? API is one way, right? So there's a couple ways you see on the stuff on the right-hand side. One is that for people who, for example, a salesperson who spends 8 hours inside Salesforce, essentially anything you want him to consume, the best place is just shove it into Salesforce. Let them just get access to that data wherever they are in the context of what they're doing. For other applications that need that data, this is where the API comes in. That if you can generate an API to essentially deliver that data, to whichever application that needs to programmatically consume it, that's great. Then you see also down there we have what's called App Factory. We also have the ability not just automatically generate APIs. We can let you build custom browser extensions as well as custom web apps. It's all about creating these mediums of how people can actually now interact and consume with the data instead of just dumping data into their labs and let them kind of figure out what to do with it.
That's really cool stuff. And I'm taking some notes here. Data in the new world is no longer the end game. I love that because our industry has been so focused on the data, delivering the data is the new oil, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's great, but it doesn't do anything unless you accomplish something with that data, right? And you don't just want to issue a report. So I think this is one of the big inflection points we see right now is that we're moving from the era of issuing reports to issuing contextual data in real time that can help someone do their job. Is that about right?
Yeah, you want to make sure you make just the right amount of data to the right people at the right place at the right time, right? Mm-hmm. You need to have the data show up where they want to consume it. So again, the end user just don't have and probably never will have the sophisticated data skills to get everything they want out of that data. It's our job to essentially make the data kind of into chewables, right? So something that they can easily consume, again, in the right place at the right time with the right context.
I love it. I'm writing this down. Data chewables. This is really interesting. I mean, this is why I think you guys are very well positioned for the tumultuous market dynamics that we're going through right now. Because again, we've had companies talking about digital transformation for at least the last decade, and really in a fever pitch the last 5 years. And with cloud and multi-cloud now really coming into its own, in large part, I say thanks to Microsoft getting serious about cloud, because Amazon Web Services had a 10-year head start on the entirety of the competition, which is just astonishing. I mean, it's really amazing. You know, IBM was thinking about it, Oracle was thinking about it, all these guys were thinking about it, but Microsoft stepped up to the plate and really changed the game, and I think opened a lot of eyes, and that is why now you have so much more activity focused on cloud, on integrating with cloud, to our point earlier, right? And you just gave an example of what was in my mind when you talked about creating this one-click API, because again, you're opening up a window between systems instead of just opening up these portals and then letting the system on the other side or the person on the other side leverage that information to optimize their job, right?
You talk about customization, right? So again, talking about this example, if you think about what essentially what you're doing with that API is you're essentially creating a custom wrapper, right? So you say, okay, fine, Salesforce give you the basic API, says, oh, here's a basic account information, here's people information. But that data, again, maybe it's delivered in a very technical way. And if you want to deliver the data in a way that's more has your business context built in, this allows you to essentially now wrap all the different APIs that Salesforce has and have a custom API deliver data just the way you want to deliver, right? Same thing with all these app factory, browser factory, extension factory we create. Is all about how do you create that customized, data consumption experience. And to us, that is, the part of the digital transformation that we're going to see in the next decade is that, again, now, it used to be that it's all about we need more data. Now it says I got too much data. And how the next challenge for all the enterprises is really how can I actually now make data more consumable, again, more chewable for all my business users.
Data chewables. I love it. That's a thing. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to be talking about data chewables like the little Flintstones chewables when I was a kid, man. We loved them.
So I'll share with you a little bit about who we are, though. As a data orchestration provider, we've helped a wide variety of companies in different industries. But because it's a relatively new space, a lot of folks put us in the same bucket as other players. And one of the things I want to share with you is just who our customers are. And a lot of them are ones that companies would think we compete with, but don't. For example, the RPA players, the robotic process automation folks like Automation Anywhere and UiPath, they're both Openprise customers. Alteryx that does all kinds of interesting things from ETL all down the road. Another one of our customers, because they see how valuable it is to have a data orchestration platform that can automate hundreds of different business processes. So as you look at this list, so many of these companies, theoretically, they've got some automation, and theoretically, they can orchestrate a process or two, but they realize the full value of working with a company like Openprise. And we've had a really great run. We've been growing at triple digits every year since I've been here many years ago. And part of the reason for that is that we've done so well in making customers happy. G2 is one of my favorite sources of information because the data comes from actual customers who are actually using the product and saying what they like about it, what they don't. And we've scored #1 in enterprise customer satisfaction, not just in the data quality category, but also in CDP's customer data platforms as well. And we think that'll continue because we've got the right people in place to make customers successful, and that's part of our DNA. Eric, I really do appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today.
Yeah, and thank you to Alan, and thank you to Ed as well. Openprise, I'm so glad you guys found us. Thanks to eWeek, by the way, for publishing my article. That's how you found me. But I think these guys are really onto something, folks. Hop online, check them out. Openprise. Is it openprise.com or openprisetech.com?
Openprisetech.com.
All right, folks, you've been listening to the briefing room once again. I'm not even kidding you. I've been asking for someone to build something like this for years. So I'm glad you guys found me, and I'm glad we found you, because we need to have more conversations about how to clean data and how to get a nice home for clean data to live. Work from home. All right, guys. We do archive all webinars for later viewing. This will be available at insideanalysis.com very shortly, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks a lot. Take care.